Hello, welcome to my photo studio and to ProPhotoLife.com. Today we're going to be talking about a very important subject and one I care a great deal about, quality of light. Really, the basis of all professional photographic lighting techniques depends on understanding the quality of light you want to achieve and then how to best use the tools you have available to get the desired results. So since we're discussing studio strobe units, I wanted to start out with a setup that would be, I felt, accessible to us all. This is a one light kit I purchased last week. It has a light stand, a studio strobe, the reflector, umbrella, and cords. It all came together. It was a great price, and I have tech information on this light on the website, ProPhotoLife.com, video episode 12 if you want to look it up. And we're going to be using this in its different forms, the different forms the umbrella will take to show the different qualities of light and how we achieve those in the studio. Now, because we're going to be looking at a lot of different lighting today, I didn't want to use a model for this setup. We're going to use inanimate objects because, to be honest, some of this light's not flattering. We're going to be talking about hard light, soft light, and how to achieve effects in between with this one simple setup. Now, a great way to understand hard light versus soft light and how to apply it to the studio is to think of the outdoors on a sunny day versus a cloudy day. On a sunny day, the sun is a relatively small pinpoint of light up in the sky. That small pinpoint of light gives very harsh shadows. That's a hard light. On a cloudy day with soft cloud cover over everything, the light comes from a very widespread area, so it's a much larger light source and it gives a much softer light, a more flattering light that fills in shadows and wraps around objects. We can replicate that with our strobe in the studio somewhat. If we just switch the strobe on, with it as it is with this small reflector, it's a relatively small light source. That equates closer to the sun and is going to give us harsh light. Now, if we add an umbrella to this strobe, we've now created a larger light source because the strobe unit is going to be shooting into the umbrella and filling it with light, and then that'll be reflecting onto the subject. This is closer to what a cloud is like. We now have a light source that is this large in diameter versus the small reflector light source. So we have what's closer to a cloudy day by using this, softer shadows, versus what's closer to a sunny day by using the small reflector. Now, another part of this equation is the size of the light source relative to the subject. Take, for example, the sun. To us, it's a tiny little pinpoint up in the sky, but in reality, it's a huge light source. It just happens to be way far away. The farther away it gets, the harder the light that comes from it. The same for this umbrella. With this umbrella very close to me, it's very large relative to me, and it gives a very soft light that wraps around me. If I move this umbrella 20 feet away, it becomes much smaller relative to me, and the light from it becomes much, much harsher. So getting a larger light closer greatly increases the softness from that light. Moving that large light farther away decreases its ability to wrap around the subject. Now, here's our first setup. It's using the umbrella as people traditionally use it, the light shooting into it, and we're going to get a nice soft light. Let's take a look at the photographic results.
Here we see a nice soft light that wraps around the various shapes. Notice especially the large ball on the right and the shadow that falls underneath it. That large shadow is soft and has a very soft feathered edge to it.
Now, though this was an inexpensive kit, the umbrella that came with it is very versatile. It allows us to take the black cover off to use the umbrella as a shoot-through. With the cover removed and the umbrella turned around, we're using it as a shoot-through, and it's able to get physically much closer to the objects. That means that it's larger in diameter in relation to the objects, and it's therefore going to give us a softer light.
Now we see that the light wraps even further around the objects, enveloping them more, and the shadow underneath the large ball on the right has gotten even softer with an even larger feathered edge.
Now, with the umbrellas completely removed, just using the reflector and the light now a relatively smaller light source, and you can see from the shadow behind me how hard a light source it is, we'll take a photograph and see what hard light really looks like.
Here we see more contrast in the objects with the shadow sides getting much darker. Again, note under that large ball on the right how hard the light is and how sharp an edge there is to the shadow now.
So we've seen three different ways of lighting this, three different qualities of light. We've seen the umbrella used in the traditional way by filling it full of light. We've seen it used as a shoot-through to diffuse the light even further. And we've seen the strobe unit with just the basic reflector, an 8-inch diameter reflector, giving us this hard light. Now there is one other way to use it that most people don't consider. We can remove the reflector from this light, and that's going to reduce the size of the light even further. It's no longer 8 inches in diameter, the size of the reflector. The light coming from the strobe unit will be smaller, the size of the flash tube, about 3 inches in diameter, and that should give us harder light yet.
Yes, here we have the most contrast. You see the shadow underneath the large ball on the right is very harsh, very defined, a very sharp edge.
So with the reflector removed from the light source, we've created effectively an even smaller light source that's going to give harder shadows with a harder, cleaner edge to them. Now one other thing that I've done, take note, there's a sandbag on the light stand. This is a little extra added protection. With everything exposed like this, and I don't recommend doing this all the time, with everything exposed and vulnerable, you want to make sure that your light stand and your strobe have extra sturdy support.
Now let's take one more look at what we've seen. Here's the very softest light using the shoot-through umbrella. You see there's a nice soft edge to the shadow. Using the umbrella in the regular fashion gives us a slightly harder edge, but still soft. The 8-inch reflector gives us a quite hard edge with just a bit of feather, and then the bare bulb head gives us a very sharp, defined shadow edge.
I hope this has been a simple explanation of how to obtain different qualities of light from a very simple lighting kit. These are principles we're going to be using quite a bit moving forward. It's really the basis for all photographic lighting. We're going to look at portrait lighting, lighting for food, product lighting in future videos, and we're going to be applying these basic principles. So thank you again for tuning in. I hope to see you at ProPhoto Life, and I'll see you next time.